Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I'm Ashdin, Doctor, your habit coach, and today we're going to deep dive into the gut. Now, this is part 2 of understanding the gut microbiome. What are the bacteria that live in there? What is the entire environment that lives in there? If you haven't heard the first episode, please do make sure you listen to it because that will add context to what we're going to discuss today. Dr. Das, what are habits or things that we can do to improve our microbiome?
Yeah. So one habit all of us know, lot of people eat curd and yogurt in their meals, and that is really, that's a probiotic. So we all know that's a very important aspect of your lifestyle that everybody should. So that is one thing. And on a lighter note, like we have many of us have alcohol, right? So the hangover, if you call it, the hangover, apart from all the other metabolic things going on, one aspect of the hangover is also dysbiosis of the gut microbiome.
Oh, wow.
Because with alcohol, you're killing the microbes inside you. And there's a lot of research to back this up. There's a lot of research to say that this actually happens. And there's a lot of research that is going on to how to replenish it immediately. Because replenishing a killed microbiome immediately is not possible, as Ravi just pointed out. Ravi is a living example, a living system of changes, many changes. So it takes weeks. It takes weeks to a month to replenish those. So that's why people after social drinking or even regular drinking people do, they face a lot of gut issues. And one reason is that alcohol leads to gut dysbiosis.
So it's even like a one night of drinking can cause this?
It can.
It's a series?
No, it can even. So another thing...
in fact, with the alcohol, I remember, on some other podcast or some show, I remember someone talking about it, saying that you do realize that you take alcohol to disinfect your body before you take an injection, right? That's what you're putting inside. So imagine if it's killing the stuff on your skin, it's going to do
what
the same
all it can do,
when you have it. And I'm saying this after having a hangover from yesterday. So like...
And then the other thing that is very important is... we all know that after cancers, people go through radiation therapy, chemotherapy. So on one side, we are treating the cancer by doing chemotherapy and radiotherapy, but you're giving so harsh treatments like radiation and chemicals that it does lead to dysbiosis of the gut microbiome. And that's a very important aspect that we ourselves in our company, we are looking for. We are now talked to several oncologists in the country, and we want to go deep dive. We want to deep dive into this aspect of how we can help these cancer patients. And several of them, if not all of them, complain of gut issues right after the start of chemotherapy or radiotherapy.
Correct.
And it is very important to help them because on one side they are treating their cancer, which is already a painful thing. And if we can help them in the gut, restoring the gut, not only will this help in their gut restoration, but fascinating research is showing that even the dosage of chemotherapy could be different. As Ravi pointed out, for drugs, for something like this, for radiation and chemotherapy, is also different if you have a different microbiome. So you first profile the...
So you actually change the chemotherapy protocol by the microbiome?
Microbiome
wow.
signatures.
Okay.
So microbiome signatures are that important for chemotherapy dosing because we don't know the exact mechanisms, but response is response. And there's a lot of research to back this up, saying that different responders, there are different responders to chemotherapy when they have different microbiomes. So these are two scientific questions that we ourselves are very passionate about in our organization, and we want to really go deep into these aspects.
And making sure that we understand this aspect of the microbiome. And fascinating.
Yeah. So in fact, I didn't even hear about this word dysbiosis until some time ago. And it really made me think. And then once you start thinking, dysbiosis is literally something that moves away from a normal.
Okay.
Right? There's an established normal and you're out of that, you're in dysbiosis.
So dysbiosis is not only gut bacteria, it can be dysbiosis of anything else.
Many things, but in the case that he was referring to, it's gut dysbiosis.
Correct.
And gut dysbiosis is linked to so many things, right? If you start thinking about, and the amount of places you can intervene through the gut, I think the examples that like Dr. Gautam gave, you can actually change people's lives and outcomes just by focusing on the gut. And if you understand it, And I'm not saying all therapies need to just focus on the gut, but if you understand it, you can tweak or modify other therapies that probably work much better. And that was fascinating for me to learn.
Are you guys working also on gut and mood?
I have been personally working on it.
But that's a very good area of research. But finding the right subjects, as we call it in science, enrolling subjects, we have to work with a psychiatrist or a psychologist who can understand what mood is what.
Correct.
In the technical language.
Yes.
So,
because that's a huge thing, right? We talk about how the gut bacteria has a difference in the way that you feel, different emotions, and different emotions come up primarily.
Yeah.
That would
I can talk about it.
Tell.
So, I think first thing I started noticing when I started changing my own gut is that my head started clearing, right? And again, you pointed out, you don't know what it is like until you experience a different state. And I started experiencing that state and I was like, wow, like all my thoughts were just flowing. There was no like zigzag lines going from one place to another. Suddenly I'm like, lost. All of that just disappeared. Second thing that happened for me is my energy levels went to a new level. And with the clarity of my head and the kind of energy that I had, I literally felt like I don't know what to call it, but I was like, on steroids or something. So
it just completely changes the way that you feel.
Absolutely. And in fact, this didn't just happen overnight, right? I kept making changes to improve it. So I don't know. I feel like it's another form of hacking, if you want to call it so. But it's like you biohack yourself to figure out, what works. And
correct.
Actually, not only that, mood and a whole bunch of other things which you should be asking people around me, not me.
Did you see a change in Ravi?
Whether it improved or not.
Yeah,
but
I joked to Ravi that you become a Superman after this.
So
yeah, you need one Superman logo with a little bug on it. Protozoas. Lovely. So you can actually see that mood change. You can see that the clarity in the way that you were thinking about when you started actually taking these protocols on.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask one strange question, which is that, people are now listening to this and saying, all right, great. What are 5 things that you did that had the biggest effect on your thing? So like you said, I understood that you eliminated a few foods.
Yeah.
Did you add things? Did you change your eating cycles? Did you do other things to the environment around you? What are 5 things if people said, I want to now improve my gut bacteria from today onwards? What can they do?
Yeah. So I think another very, very important element for me, and I know it's so relevant now, is understanding what prebiotics are.
Okay.
And prebiotics are not like medication or something. Prebiotics is literally what you eat every day, right? Not only does it have to nourish you, it has to nourish your gut bacteria as well. And so as I started making these changes, I started identifying foods that were good for my gut. And I started increasing the proportion of those foods in my meals to the point where I felt like, okay, this is now reaching a good point of balance. And then
this
of course,
was all through gut feel, inverted commas?
Absolutely. Through gut. I mean, those tools didn't exist at that point.
Correct.
But yeah, completely through gut feel. And as I started making those choices, I started also observing people's reactions around me. They're like, what is this that you're eating? Right?
So what were some of the things that you added that you felt a difference? Like, what are some of the ingredients?
So
I know this won't be, like a blanket statement for everyone to do. I understand that.
Absolutely.
But just out of curiosity.
No, so for example, I can tell you what I eliminated, right? Gradually. I started reducing some of the grains and things that were very high in carbohydrates. I started increasing things like vegetables and lentils, which have more fiber and nutrient content. So hot swapping some of these as I went along, I would replace one of these with another. And another.
Are you a cauliflower rice fan? Are you not a cauliflower rice fan?
I'm more of a quinoa fan, but I do like cauliflower rice a lot.
All right, great.
So, but quinoa is a great substitute. For a lot of things. So I brought in things like that. I started understanding nutrition values much more. And then I started looking for fibers, both soluble and insoluble. Insoluble are the ones that feed your gut bacteria.
Correct.
And sort of support your system in many other ways.
So insoluble means the body can't necessarily use them, but the gut bacteria uses them as food.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And And then, yeah, of course, as I said, I made some of these changes. And one big and really important contribution I made to my own life was how to make this look tasty. Okay. Because I had to eat it every day.
Shouldn't be hospital food.
Exactly. So I started make it look so attractive that other people wanted it.
Arey wah.
And then the acceptance just went up. People started seeing me as this cool dude, who eats
Who's
this
doing
funky
fancy
stuff.
things.
Yeah. And not this crazy guy who eats like, okay, I won't even touch this food kind of stuff.
Did you see their moods going up as well?
I've made the changes possible when they're around me at least. So, yeah, by sharing my food.
By sharing food.
Yeah.
Cook
So-
for a paltan every time you come.
Absolutely. It's become like that, So,
So the hot swapping, so remove the ones that were affecting you and immediately replace them with something that is probably feeding the gut bacteria. in that
absolutely.
sense.
And like I tried to do a 1-for-1 wherever it was possible. Like substituting quinoa for rice,
Right.
for example, quinoa flour for wheat flour. And then seeing how it was impacting me, and what started working, I started keeping. So, I wanted to retain the benefits without letting go of my experience.
But does that mean that you never let go on your food? You'll never have like a binge night or pizzas and this and that?
Never.
Like what? Never.
Not in all these years, ever.
Why? Like
Be-
people are listening saying that, but then what is the point of living? What is the answer that you normally give when someone says that?
Because I already make my food look so good, I don't want to eat anything else. So, in fact, I make it look better than what it would look otherwise.
So you don't feel that you're actually missing out. And I think that is the
Absolutely.
key to any habit change, and including this
Yeah.
when it comes to food, right? If you feel that you're missing out on something, there is no way that you're going to end up doing
Yeah.
it, right? You have to feel that you are better, if not at par. Correct?
Yeah.
So you have to think about it that way. Don't make boiled food, hospital food as something that you want to be eating every day.
Exactly. And we know in evolution, right? All the females have all the colors in all the animals is because they want to attract.
Correct.
So if they didn't have those colors, it's the same logic here. You have to make it look attractive,
Make
so
it
it is attractive.
Lots of colors.
Yeah.
That whole eat the rainbow funda
Yeah.
works.
I think it does. Because it really nourishes your gut in ways you don't understand or don't imagine. The different food groups and combination of fibers.
Polyphenols are not coming from the colors as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So and the antioxidants, that's an important one that also comes from foods that have these colors.
Do antioxidants have any effect on gut bacteria? They're not necessarily related to each other?
They definitely are. He can talk a little bit more technical about it, but I know from experience that they have many effects, including skin. If you eat antioxidant foods, it improves your skin.
But from a gut bacteria point of view or from doc?
Both. From a direct point of view, wherein free radicals that get generated inside our cell
Correct.
get eaten away by the antioxidants.
Right.
And there's now increasing evidence, research evidence, that a direct effect of antioxidants onto the gut bacteria that will finally help us. So there are two ways that it is doing.
Is it the same mechanism that is taking place in the gut? Are we still getting rid of the...
No. It'll be something
So
different.
it's not an oxidative
No,
issue in the
no.
bacteria itself
No,
that
no.
this is helping
Yeah.
with? Okay. All right. So the mechanism might be something
Yes.
completely different.
In fact, oxidation is linked to like breakdown of DNA and a lot of other functions in your gut, including gut lining and things like that. So if you try to protect that and also keep the gut bacteria intact, they have their own mechanism of making it stronger from that point. So by introducing things like that, antioxidants, you can actually
Make the-
protect the damage and let the bacteria sort of take over.
Yeah,
Would
it's
that
the
be a
same. It's the same host environment that we are talking about. So, could be that free radicals in that environment, if you are reducing it by whichever way, is helping us. It's helping the gut bacteria to survive. So, more mechanistic studies are ongoing into this aspect.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me what you guys do in terms of testing. So I remember when I came and gave that little impromptu talk at your event when you all were launching, lots of people messaged on Instagram saying that, listen, I didn't know we were doing this in India. Tell me how to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about how, somebody who's interested in understanding their gut can go about, either testing or making a change in a more scientific manner?
Yeah. So I'll talk about the kit. He can probably talk about the science. I'll talk about the kit and the experience. So we've kept the consumer in mind, and we've tried to make it as convenient as possible to sort of take this test. So when somebody wants to take a test, what they will receive basically is a nice compact kit.
How do they do this? They go to your website and sign up, and what is the process?
They go to our website. They sort of select what option they want. We have a few options on our website. Once we receive their order, the kit will be delivered to their home. when they want it delivered. We coordinate the whole process. When they receive the kit, all the instructions that they need to sort of take the test are there. It's a very, very convenient tool. You basically do it in the comfort of your own home. And once you collect your sample, which goes into this tiny little vial, we have a little container that you put it back into, and then you let us know when you want it picked up. So we come and pick up the kit. It comes to our lab, and then we start the processing, and then Dr. Gautam takes over. And
what happens once you got a
the
sample?
sample comes from this nice flow, www.microbiome.in. You can go there, click for the test, and as Ravi said, once the sample comes to our lab, we have a very talented group of scientists in our lab at Jogeshwari West. So we first do the profiling, as I was telling in the beginning. Sequence everything that comes to us. Our job is to first sequence anything and everything what is out there. And when we sequence stool sample, you sequence some DNA from humans that come in, because human cells can come in your stool occasionally. But then a majority, and when I say majority, it is close to 90-95% is coming from bacteria. And when you break open every cell that is present in your stool sample, it's 90-95% coming out from microbes. Now, these microbes, we first put it into a series of preparatory steps that we do for the sequencing. And we have a next generation sequencing facility right here in Mumbai, wherein we sequence all this bacteria, virus, fungi, archaea, nematodes, protozoa that exist in the stool sample. And then once we have sequenced all of this, as I was saying, there are diversity of around 500 to 1,000 different kinds of microbes that exist in our stool sample. So that goes through a computation pipeline, and we have built a very robust computation pipeline that can now recognize all of these 500 to 1,000 different species and catalog them into a list that at this particular time your stool sample had this species. Once we have cataloged all of this, the rest is very, very important. So as I always say, that genetics is fascinating, the human genomics is fascinating, but consumer genomics, as we call it, we understand our genome, but then can we really change it? Yes, there are scientific discoveries that are happening in the world of science that you can actually, but that's for the very, very distant future, I would say. But in case of microbiome, what
You're talking about like the CRISPR aspects?
Yeah, CRISPR aspects. Okay. So those are very, very far in the future. But now, with microbiome genomics, what is very fascinating is once you know the problem that you are missing so-and-so bacteria, you can have solutions right away by replenishing the gut bacteria through food, probiotics, prebiotics, a slight change in oil. For example, there are recommendations you would see, oil change karna 3 mahine mein and all that. And that is not just vague. It is not to change to sunflower oil, to groundnut oil.
As in like during the season you're talking about?
Yeah. Okay. And there's a lot of role of gut microbiome in that. Because once you add a new oil, there are different bacteria that reside in your gut.
Wow.
And this gut bacteria is actually coming and feeding that oil, feeding on that oil. So a different profile exists if you change just oil in 3 months. So that is the kind of interventions that you can do once you know this bacteria, not just through prescription probiotics, which is the ideal thing that you would do in the future, but changing food, changing prebiotics, as Ravi pointed out. Through those changes, you can actually change your gut microbiome. So then we have a series of
this oil one is fascinating.
Yeah.
Huh? Like we always thought about it only as like, the Ayurvedic doctors are saying these things to us, but you're actually seeing it in your results.
And some people say, "Kyun karna? Like, does this make any sense?" But when you go deep, like there is science behind everything.
Have you done a video on this? Have you done a blog on which oils at which time are good for you?
Not yet, but it's a good
coming.
idea.
Hey, come on. This is like a tease then. You have to tell us which oils at what time we have to have. Okay, cool.
So then once we have this catalog of information that such and such bacteria, virus exist in your body, what we do is we recommend, our report comes in, which we recommend that you should take this food, this probiotic, this prebiotic, and your overall gut health index. So that has been, we have arrived at a gut health index based on a lot of data, both globally and Indian data. We have measured it by an algorithm that we created in our lab, wherein we have the average gut microbiome. And in our specific case, we have the average Indian gut microbiome. And on top of that, anything that is positive is positive. Anything that is negative is negative. So that is what we call the gut health index. So we give the gut health index. And after all this, we do have consultations with nutritionists, dietitians, and we go to the extent of gastroenterologist consultation if somebody is suffering from IBS, IBD. So we try to help the person, whoever it is. It could be a consumer who is just curious. As you will see in our one of our packages is just called My GQ, it's curiosity. So one who is just interested in knowing what their his or her gut looks like, we have a package for them. And we have a premium package wherein we are giving all the way hand-holding you to gastroenterologist consultation, where you know your actual disease and the doctor treats you for a long term. So that is the way the whole packages are designed for the benefit of every person.
And so when you get a score like this, like what should the person think of immediately? You know, you're giving me a score.
Yeah.
Now, what do I use that score? What do I do? How do I understand it? If there's no doctor helping me, what do I do with it?
Hello, everybody. It's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cock and Bull, Cyrus Nivedita, Sriram and Antrix shared their take on the free chole bhature served in Chandigarh in exchange for taking a COVID booster dose. On Do What Floats Your Boat, Danish speaks to Pranav Mishra, co-founder and CEO of Human. They discuss entrepreneurship, poetry, writing, and more. On Naan Kari Sadafinacha take you back in time, and they talk to you about Dalda and Vanaspati. On Don Baika Gappa Aika, Avanti and Aparna talk about the quintessential fear of missing out, or as the internet calls it, FOMO. And on the Ideas Project, Anupam is joined by Atanu Agarwal, co-founder of Upside AI, about how to invest smartly during inflation. I'd like to remind you all about our merchandise once again. We got some amazing stuff out there with more coming soon, but go to the IVM Podcast website and check out our collection of t-shirts. You have to click on the shop tab and we'll take you to our partner Grow91's website. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Hey, you want somebody to talk to your shows about, right? So talk to them about them. Also, don't forget to rate us on any platforms you're listening to us on, and remember, you can check us out on YouTube. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week, Bode Lifestyle, Small Case, Capgemini, and Intel vPro. Thank you so much for making this possible.
So yeah, we've been having very good, very surprising responses from people, wherein some people understand it. Like we give a index 0 to 10 and they understand it quite well. Some people call us, and we also have a session from a gut coach. So one of our scientists works as a gut coach, and gut coach goes through all the report and the index to explain what is it that your index has become bad. There are parameters. We have our parameters that has made your index good or bad. If it is good, people don't worry. But if it is bad, that's human nature.
It's like whenever you do a blood test, you only look for where the asterisks are, where the bold things are. Like, achha, something's wrong there. You don't celebrate all the stuff that's good.
So whenever the index is bad, we go deep into the parameters that have made it bad. And that is the recommendation, the intervention that we call it, that comes at the end of the report, wherein we suggest so-and-so food, prebiotics, probiotics, to make it better. And we always tell everyone that after at least a month, or if you can afford even earlier, or if you can't, at least in 3 months, come back to us, get your gut microbiome tested again, and see how you have improved over time.
So it is something that takes how long? For example, if I do the test and I make the changes, how long does it take for me to see a difference?
Yeah, there is, for different things it is different. For overall, any change you should you expect to see will take a couple of weeks. So it's not in a day that these bacteria have to colonize. So from couple of bacteria that you give externally, it has to colonize into making these trillions that we talked about. So that takes time.
How long?
3 to 4 weeks.
3 to 4 weeks. So about a month.
In fact, I have a question for you. How long does a typical habit take to set?
So the way that I look at it is that the whole 21 days is rubbish. Okay, I've never seen anybody get a habit in 21 days. I've never seen a habit form in 90 days. The point is that we are so obsessed with by when the habit will form that we are now looking at that as a target. And many times when people feel that 21 days hoga, they stop it. So the whole thing is, how do you evolve with your habit? I'm guessing the same thing happens with the gut as well. Like you constantly
Absolutely.
keep evolving with it instead of saying that now I've got 100 score or 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I've got 10 score. Has anyone ever reached a 10 score?
We haven't seen.
Do you think it's possible?
It is possible?
Yeah.
It is possible. Finally, it's the parameters.
Chalo,
You have
Ravi, let's start a competition. Who can reach 10 first?
That's a great idea. We should have this competition on social media.
Absolutely. But you know what I want to tell you was the bacteria are also looking for a habit, right?
Yeah.
If you make it a habit, those bacteria that like that habit will hang around. The ones who don't like it will leave.
Will bounce. They'll be like out.
So that's how the change happens in your gut, literally.
Correct.
So,
So change your habits, change your gut bacteria,
yeah.
be happy, be strong. I love it. In fact, there was something that I wanted to ask earlier on. You spoke about prebiotics. You spoke a lot about that. So what are the different kinds of this postbiotics, prebiotics, probiotics? What are the different prefixes to biotics that exist?
Ravi consumes all of these.
So prebiotics basically are your food.
Mm-hmm.
They're now being recognized as adding nutritional value to you and your gut both. But largely focusing, of course, on the microbes in your gut. What nourishes which microbe and what prebiotic works in what kind of situation, right? And prebiotics...
So from the test, you would tell me that eat more of this for
Correct.
this particular kind of bacteria. And that would all
Yeah.
be prebiotic.
Prebiotic.
Things like asparagus, artichoke, these are known to be good prebiotic foods,
Okay.
right? And then, of course, our algorithm matches that food with what you have in your gut because these are known to nourish certain kind of bacteria. So those are what prebiotics are. Those are literally foods that you're eating every day. And that is something that is a big part of what we want as changes in people's lives. Probiotics is specific, like, you said the sniper approach. If there's something that's missing or maybe there's a general combination that would benefit a person, that's a combination of live bacteria that are called probiotics. And
in the scheme of things, like, would you tell people to do more things like sauerkraut, kimchi, all your kefir, all of those kinds of things, or they are not as beneficial to the changing of your gut microbiome?
So, what would be recommended for one person would be different from what would be recommended. But in general, these are beneficial foods, gut beneficial foods. So, of course, don't consume all of them in one meal and expect that, it's going to change. And don't stop eating some of the other foods. But introducing some of these and also making it a habit and then seeing what works for you would be a very, very good way to...
So not to make sauerkraut raita with kefir and... Okay, fine.
Right.
Masala papad with kimchi on top. No, okay, fine.
Yeah. And of course, expectations have to be realistic. You can't say that I took all of this and why is my gut not improving now, because you're probably leaving some other important things out.
Do these bacteria, like for example, when we have sauerkraut or when we have kefir, do the bacteria survive all the way down through the stomach into the intestine, or do they die by the time they reach the intestine?
No, they are live.
They don't get like...
So these are our own bacteria. When there are two things that we are talking about. One is the prebiotic that Ravi says. The way it works is you consume the prebiotic. You're not consuming any live bacteria there.
Correct.
You're consuming a prebiotic, as the word says. So to consume that, there are class of bacteria that will come, right? So these are the changes that you're making. So you're giving more of a particular prebiotic so that more of that bacteria which consume this prebiotic would grow.
Correct.
And because this is finally cell division, more of that bacteria, it's all a mixture of bacteria wherein one takes over the other. It's a competition among different microbes that is happening right at the intestinal level. And probiotics are actually live bacteria that you're giving inside you. And then this could be in different formulations. Pharma companies have come up with different formulations of probiotics, how much to give, dosing, etc. So now these are live bacteria that get into your system. And then there is a wait time. Once you take probiotics, you can't say tomorrow I'm fine. These bacteria have to go inside, because you cannot give enough that is residing, like you cannot give in trillions in one day. That could have harmful effects. So you give enough so that your body responds well initially and give chance to these microbes to multiply. Colonization, what we call it. So inside the gut, they will become from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8 and so on. So that wait time is the time required for anything to act well.
Correct. The question was that if I'm having a probiotic, right? Say I'm having some either the pharma company's
Correct.
probiotic or a probiotic that came in the form of either dahi, like you said earlier, or anything. Do the bacteria die because of the stomach when you eat them, or do they survive through to the intestine? What is happening at that point in time? Is there a mass murder that happens while we eat it, or then?
The bacteria have to survive. I mean, that's the point.
Correct.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
if they are dead, then
What's the point?
Yeah.
Correct. So how do they?
I mean, Ravi can add the next subject, exciting subject that is happening is also dead bacteria, right? So
Yes.
very fascinating research is happening into the
On dead bacteria?
Yeah, what they do and the metabolites that are released from the dead bacteria, they are important. But that is another aspect of discussion. When we talk about live bacteria, these are the bacteria that have to go survive the survive the stomach and then get into the system, get into the intestine and colonize themselves. So that
Can I
Yeah.
sort of?
Yeah, Ravi,
it's a
please.
question for you also,
Yes,
and maybe it'll helpful. The term Lactobacillus acidophilus, does it mean it's going to survive your acidic environment?
Acidic environment, yes. So these are the
So-
bacteria. So these bacteria have many ways to survive the insults that come
body
in the
has.
different forms the body has. And then, and if it's a resident bacteria, if it's not a pathogen, you wouldn't see an immune response against that bacteria. So that's another interesting part.
Yeah.
So if a new bacteria like let's say a pathogenic bacteria comes inside like a streptococcus which causes pneumonia, your body would fight against it. But your gut microbiome does not contain this, so your body knows what is native,
What should be inside, what should not
is
be
native,
outside.
what is alien, and then the whole immune system does not play a role in, for example, Lactobacillus acidophilus. And Ravi has pointed out, the name itself is suggesting that it loves acidic environment, and that's how it survives the acidic environment and gets inside, colonizes, and that's how they multiply. And
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Dead bacteria.
yes,
So I'm going to talk about two things. I'm going to talk about, you asked me about postbiotics, right? Postbiotics is literally after the bacteria, and what they produce is the important stuff. And basically, like, these bacteria have a role, a function, and scientists have figured out that this bacteria can do these things. They can produce these things. Why don't we make them produce it? You don't take the risk of taking the whole bacteria, but why don't you just take the beneficial product out of it?
Oh, just the end result.
Yeah. Just the end result. And I don't know, the exact science around how this connects and what it does, but there's definite benefits that come from just taking postbiotics.
Okay.
The other interesting area that I came about recently was paraprobiotics. And these are basically live bacteria that have literally been killed and put into your system along with whatever they have produced.
Okay.
So you're not extracting out just the nutrients.
The bacteria bodies are also still there.
Yep, absolutely. And one thing scientists are recognizing is that even the shape of the surface on the cell is important indicator for some function in your gut.
Interesting.
So you need not put, again, an interventional bacteria, but you can actually kill it, still put it and get the beneficial effect. So it's really fascinating how many ways your communication channels within your gut exist. It talks to nutrients, it talks to bacteria, it talks to parts of bacteria, dead bacteria. I mean, God knows, what else it's doing.
or
we're
just
gonna fight
the
out.
chemicals from the bacteria. Yeah.
So
It's such it's this wide open territory for us to explore and understand, and I love the stage that we're at because it's so exciting.
Yeah.
Right, we all want to know about it. We all want to feel better, and like you said, like a dead bacteria can have such an effect on the way that our body. Or the signaling that takes place because of it,
Absolutely.
right? Because the cell walls are the communication aspect of the cell.
Yeah.
So it's interesting even how those are talking to. Fascinating. Are there anything that you want to tell our listeners that we haven't covered so far in the discussion about our gut microbiome?
Anything about science, Gautam?
I think gone are the days where we just had a gut feel. Like, for example,
Gut
Ravi
feel
said,
about our gut.
Ravi said 10 years back there were no tools. But as a scientist, having worked in this domain for several years now, I would recommend everybody to get your gut tested And whenever there is a issue, or you're just curious, or you want to change your lifestyle, your food, anything, first I would say put science first. Know where you are at that moment of time, because gut bacteria is dynamic. Your gut microbiome is dynamic. Today it could be different. In 2023, it will be very different depending on your lifestyle or how much drinking you did.
In fact, I was going to ask you all if you all had seen a difference in the gut bacteria during the pandemic, right? Because everyone's lifestyles changed so dramatically that I'm sure there would have been a difference.
Yes, there are several studies, and we have also done a lot of study on even like the COVID and gut dysbiosis. There was a lot of talk that time that your post-COVID symptoms, one of the prominent symptoms is gut dysbiosis.
Correct.
So those are there. And so my first advice to whoever is listening is put science first, get your microbiome tested first, so you'll know where you are. And from there, any change, if everything is fine, very good, congratulations. But then if there are areas where improvement is required, we are here to help.
Fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
If everything is fine, party, but don't drink. Chas party.
No, and I just want to add that, a lot of people think that good gut is a product of something. My view is good gut is a habit, right? You have to focus on it all the time. If you lose your focus on keeping your gut healthy, it's just going to go all over the place,
Yay, I love that. That was a damn good place. Okay, so changing your gut, making your gut good is a habit, guys. So please check out the test. Do it. See where you are right now so that you know how you've progressed and how far you can get. I know there's a lot of curiosity about this. Best of luck.
Thank
you
you
all
so
have
much.
just
Thank you
launched.
so
I'm
much.
very excited about, this whole company and the way that you all are changing the environment of our gut and how we take care of our health. Fantastic. How can people reach out to you all? How can people try the test? What is the way to do it?
The best way, as I said, www.microbiome.in.
Microbiome.in.
It has all the information, very simple domain. So it has all the information, how to take the test. It has guidelines on how to book your test, etc. And then it's all very simple there. Once you log in, you book your test, and then the kit comes to your home.
Correct. And
Comfort
then,
of your home.
Like you said, you give the sample in.
Yes, delivery boy comes, picks your sample
Across
from
India?
Currently, it is launched pan-India, and the service of delivery boy coming to your home is localized to Mumbai right now. But very soon, we'll be expanding to first to major metro cities, and then our goal is to reach global. I mean, not just India.
Fantastic. All right, super. And any social media handles that people can reach out, message?
Yeah, look us up on at microbiome.in on Instagram.
Okay.
And also follow us microbiome.in on LinkedIn.
Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook.
Yeah, all
You all
social
are
media.
there everywhere.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
YouTube,
yes.
yeah.
Listen, if you all are not doing the oil wala video on YouTube, I'm going to have a
You're going to tell us tel lene jao.
Thank you guys for coming. It was absolutely a pleasure.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ashdin, for having us.
Thank you so much.